Hello, everyone, and welcome to the business Q&A sessions with Meeta and Tosh. Hi, Tosh.
Morning, Meeta. How you doing? You all right?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, feeling like we're a little bit like in black today. Are you in black?
No, I'm in blue.
No, okay. It just looks a little bit kind of slick.
Yeah, you're in the James Bond mode today. Well, we are doing some highly charged work today, aren't we, for the next 30 to 40 minutes?
You know what? I'm really super excited about this topic. It's one of the number one things, and I told you about this last week, Meeta, when we came up with this sort of topic. It's been one of the number one headaches of all employers. It's not some sort of plug or anything like that. Number one issue is finding the right people. Yeah. How do you find the right people? And there's so many different ways and theories and processes. And I had a little epiphany last week when we chose the topic. Yeah. And I really wanted to share that with you and really dig deep into you actually today, me to sort of pick your brain about it.
What did I say to you when you told me about your epiphany?
Yeah, you said some people aren't ready to receive that information.
Because when I did some hiring for you a year or so back, we talked about all this. And I really want to understand why it is that so much of what we're going to talk about there today is already available. We're already guiding and advising, but not all companies are ready. And interestingly, we're doing a poll today asking everyone if they have a defined culture in their business. And so far, 2/3 say no and 1/3 say yes. So it's interesting stuff because I really believe that you have to be open to understanding that it's like a jigsaw puzzle, the success of finding people. And even if that one piece is missing, that puzzle is not complete.
What I also learned from that process is, as a recruiter, I think I put a lot of the responsibility of finding the right person on the recruiter.
Yeah.
And what happens is the recruiter has to base it on the instructions of what the person is saying. And the person doesn't actually know what it is. They got an idea about it. We'll go through that today. Yeah. I'm really excited about it. They don't really realize they have an idea. And I'll explain that as we go through that today. We can use myself as an example, quite frankly. But I really want to dig deep also into, you've got it right so many times. Your expertise in this area is obviously what I want to dip into to the benefit of everybody. So we can use that as a working example as well. Before we go into... Sorry.
I was just going to say, with over 20 years of doing this and being frontline in this space of helping organizations and ourselves, bringing the right talent into your worlds, it really is enlightening that people want to reflect, actually, because everyone has a process, but how effective is that? And, we are all about this cycle, it's a 360 cycle. You bring the right people in, you induct them well, what you said you are, you show you are, you grow them well, you reward them, and it continues. And it should be an ever ascending cycle of success. The reality is that more than 50% of hires fail. And we forget finding them. Even when people find them, they go, it costs 3 times the salary to replace. I mean, God, it's frightening. These numbers are frightening, and yet not everyone's ready for this.
I was talking to you before we started today, and I said this always reminds me of like the Chris Rock sketch. I don't know if you've seen it. And he talks in there. He goes, when somebody turns up for an interview, you don't meet that person. You meet the best representation of that person. And it's true. They're going to come up there with a certain view in mind, maybe trying to give you answers that they think you want rather than what the truth is, and then just get on with the job. But there's lots of little hacks that I think we can give them today to avoid those things. Look, there's nothing bulletproof about it. If somebody knows how to do certain things, they'll get through. But eventually, the truth will always unfold. What we're trying to do is, I would look before we go into our topics today. The specific things. What we should really look at. What are the headaches when you get it wrong? It's not just about the salary. It's the time in searching for that person. It is the investment into that person with the induction. It's and a lot of business owners, they think, well, you know what, I've made the choice now. I don't want to undo my. So then they just stick with it when their gut already says early on, maybe it's the wrong person already.
Part of what we do is handhold through the induction, because if you think about it, if someone's had this experience of the whole process and then they turn up on day one and they think this isn't what I expected, you think you've been missold the dream, and you lose that trust and confidence. And the whole purpose of the interview process is matching and finding the one business and employee. But then the induction and that is almost like the dating and the growth of that relationship, where what you say you're going to do is the reality. And it's one of these things. When it works, it's beautiful and organizations get it right. But when it doesn't, it's very painful. And that's why we're not here to plug anything today. We're not saying use us. We're saying here's what you need to be thinking about, because you're right. Whether you do it directly or even if you use a recruitment partner, which, you know, the biggest part of our world is attraction, because that's where it all starts. Then you can think about the retention, development and training that we do. But actually, it is a partnership. It is about knowing yourself, know thyself, the most important 2 words that, you know, are out there.
It's exactly the same in a relationship. Exactly. Yeah. I don't see any difference. If you think about the complexity of finding the right person, is it 100% guaranteed? No, you know, people change, you know, but you can really get these key milestones in place to significantly improve the chances of having the right fit, whether that's a relationship, whether that's a recruitment process. You know why that works in both contexts? Because they're principles. They're key principles, and principles, you know, it's science. It'll be there all day long, you know, until maybe there's a new science that's found or something. But generally, that's the laws of physics. Those principles don't change over time, and you're applying what you do in a relationship to finding the right fit for a person. It makes sense, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So the laws of attraction or business attraction, finding the right person, and the laws of retention and what organizations and business leaders should be thinking about when they're bringing their people in. So we've got 3 areas we want to cover today. First of all, and I know this is something we're really passionate about, is what intrinsic motivators people have. And do we recruit on attitude or do we recruit on skills? You know, so let's think about that. Let's think about what actually matters to a business. Like, what are they, what's their journey? What are they looking to do? How are these people going to plug that hole to fulfill the objectives of the organization? And then finally, how are you going to make sure that when you're ready to receive that person into your world, they're there ready to jump? So how do you continually make sure that as a brand, you are somewhere that people think, yeah, I want to be part of that world. I want to be part of that tribe. So those are the areas we're going to be covering today. You
know, I was in I do a networking thing every Thursday. It was one of the topics, in fact, that we had while you were away, Meeta, was the Inspired CEO session. So we did that this morning. And even in there, they were talking about, you know what, I just can't find the right people. So whose fault is that? So should we get stuck in?
Let's do it. Chat room on the right, chat box here on the right, as always. We would always value your input, comments, thoughts, questions, anything that you want to bring up. Put it in the chat box.
I just put a little hi in there. Yeah, you know the rules, or the way we play this game is we answer every single question that you put in there. We'll do that live. If you're facing challenges right now, put them in there. We will answer them. If we somehow run out of time, we should be done by 11:30, 11:40 normally, because we get kind of stuck into it. Then if we do run out of time, we'll do a follow-up video answering the questions, or take it offline. We're so accessible, you know, contact us, email us, WhatsApp us, whatever way you want to get in touch with us. There's lots of different ways. We'll go through that a little bit at the end, okay?
Sounds good. And if I look distracted, it's because I have a daddy long legs in the room. But anyway,
but you've got a choice now. You can either just remove it gently or you can send it to the next life. I didn't say that. I didn't say that life.
No next life. I'm a firm believer in what goes around comes around. But I'll be keeping one eye on that.
A little bit on edge. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So let's get stuck in. So I guess what we were talking about, the first issue is understanding the motivators.
Yeah.
So let's go back a little bit. You know, we were talking about when you find somebody, Meeta, and this was my certainly my view, is you have an idea of what you want for a person, and you think about what motivates them. Is it money? You know, you also talk about things like your business values and, you know, our culture, and you kind of lay all these things out. What do you think an employee will say? Do you believe in those things, same things? They're going to say yes.
They say what you want to hear. Generally, by the time somebody turns up in front of you, they've sourced you on, you know, they've applied to a role, they like the sound of the role, they've probably looked at you on social media, they've looked at your website, they might have even done a bit of LinkedIn snooping to see who else works in the company and what their background is. So they feel like they know you a little bit, and really that interview is about almost consistency in what their impression is of you. So of course they're going to say yes, because they chose you on the basis of the engagement they've already seen.
You know, we've regularly said, recruit on attitude, don't recruit on skills. Skills are a given, obviously. They've got to be able to have the skills to do the job. But attitude you can't teach, skills you can't. But now we're going a bit deeper, aren't we? So what is your definition? What does it mean when we're talking about looking for intrinsic motivators?
Well, I think it's people's purpose, isn't it? It's the why. Why are you on this journey? What is it you want to achieve by doing this job? What makes you feel happy, successful, engaged? We always talk about entrepreneurs and, don't chase the money, chase the value you add, and then the money follows. Well, employees coming into an organization, people that work for somebody else, they have their own reasons why they do what they do. And what of the job is going to fulfill that? It's understanding that, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think absolutely that's right. And where I've gone wrong actually in the past in my recruitment process is I let people know my values, and they don't want to be out of a job. So they will say yes. Not that they're liars or anything either. Maybe they think it's just some sort of plaque you put on a wall. Maybe they don't realize actually you live and you breathe those values and what they really matter to you. So, the idea of intrinsic models means that it's already in them. Because values aren't things that you aspire to. Values aren't things that you develop. They're there forever. So if they're already in you, you don't need. I'm not saying don't give them a pay rise or give people bonuses and all those sorts of things. We'll talk about reward systems in a moment. But I'm saying the values are already in there. So the key is to understanding what is it you need to ask so you can get the values out of them without telling them what your values are. How do we do that?
Well, how do you do that? Yeah, we have an exercise so it's all about the interview process, isn't it? This interview process, as you said, Chris Rock says you get the best representation. So how do you actually make the interview process work for you? And I'm not saying 100% guaranteed, but if you get the interview process better, you're stacking the odds well in your favor as an organization. For all that work you do, you get the outcomes you expect. So number one, do more than one set of interviews so you can challenge them with different people, different scenarios, and different environments to see if they're consistent in their approach. But on our third and final, on our second interview stage, we do what we call the dinner party exercise. Now, before we go into it, I'm just going to read Chris's comment here. Chris says, here's one. I often think of how willing are we to recruit someone who is not like me, someone who will shape the tree and move the company forward, but will help my values evolve. That's really interesting, Chris. And absolutely, because, no business owner is going to grow and challenge their world by having a room full of yes people.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want people you do want people that will challenge, but in a polite and professional way. I always say to people, you can say anything as long as it's polite and professional, right? Because if you get the tone right and you're not accusatory, but, you're all on this journey together, then people appreciate some challenge. But anyway, this dinner party question is phenomenal. We talk about, and I've done, we've got our masterclass, and I'm not plugging anything this in this session, but we talk to our clients about doing what we call the dinner party question, which is you ask the interviewee, if you were to have a dinner party, who in your world would you have there? But it's not just who they would have there, it's the why. Why would they be there? And if you left the room to go and get the teas and coffees after dessert, what would they say about you? And then you say, well, who's the one person that would be your number one person at the dinner party and why? And at the end of that, we encourage them to talk to that person actually about this job and say to that person, talk me out of taking this job.
I think there's two things that come out of that. Again, you're trying to get what it is that they'll really like. And I suppose one of the really good questions that will just be open then to see if they align with your values are tell me something you're really proud of. Yeah. Tell me two things that you it doesn't have to be work related. In fact, don't make it work related. Maybe make something work related, make something not work. Give me something you're really proud of, and you'll get a real feel of what matters to that person. And I just wanted to say one other thing about Chris, where she talked about having people that who are not like me.
It might be a me, or a they.
So I guess the point is the people that you are challenging you, if they're not like you, the question, is you've got to understand, it comes back to the intrinsic motivators. I'll give you an example. If I'm Meeta's enemy or I'm Meeta's best friend and give her the same piece of advice, why is she not listening to the enemy? She will listen to the person who's the best friend. It's because she understands what my motivation is. I've got her back. I might be wrong. We might both be wrong, but it won't be received in a negative way. So the way you just said about challenging in a respectful way and having that sort of reputation, people know where you're coming from, make all the difference. So being different is fine as long as you're back to intrinsic alignment.
Yeah. And I completely agree with that. It is about the journey of building trust and confidence in your people. And so, Chris, when you say, how willing are we? It's whether we have trust and confidence in that person. We might, rub each other up the wrong way, but we also have a lot of respect for them in their role and know, as you said, Tosh, where they're coming from is a place of ultimate improvement as a unit, as an organization. So another exercise that I really value, and this is actually how we're going to talk about culture down the line, but I think it's really a good time to bring up is this, tell me, the question we also ask in the final stage. So in the dinner party stage, we always say, come talk to that person about why you shouldn't take this role and then come back to me. So in the third interview, you refer back and you say, did you do that exercise? Because first of all, you want to know if this job is important to them. And then you say, well, what did your special person say? Because that will then help them decide if they want someone challenges them to taking this role. They've already done the thinking. So if they're back, they've thought about all the reasons why they shouldn't take the role from someone they trust. And then they've talked themselves into why they do want the role. And what that means is you're increasing your chances of getting them to accept an offer if you give it, on the basis that they've dug into their intrinsic motivations, not just does this look good on paper. So that's a really good exercise. But the other exercise that we use all around our cultural framework is about tell me 3 people you value and why. And it could be Gandhi, it could be Mother Teresa, it could be a parent, it could be an ex-boss, it could be a customer services person on the last, insurance call they had. But it's the whys and putting those words together and then measuring them against your own value system then shows you, it's a bit like what you said, what are you proud of, whether that resonates or not. It starts to build a picture of what the drivers are, what those intrinsic motivators are, what this person's purpose is.
I find, though, and I'm putting a though in there to challenge you, that talking about what you are impressed by that somebody else has done might be something you're aspiring to, right? You can talk about Mother Teresa, you can talk about Gandhi, great. They're very easy examples of people who have created movements that have changed the world or attitudes or what have you. Yeah. But if you're talking about you personally, what have you done that you're proud of? Whether that's a personal situation, whether that's a business situation, it could be anything, helping somebody out. That is really different. You're not hiding behind somebody else's story. What's your story? What matters to you? That's a more powerful question in my book.
And this is why the process isn't one exercise. It's building the jigsaw puzzle and pulling together all the information and then reflecting by pulling all your different exercises, stages, and approaches back. So that really is because look, it's a needle in a haystack, and actually during this pandemic, the haystack's just got bigger. Finding that one person. I always say to our clients, like, well, why should we work with you? And it's a case of, well, you don't have to, but have you got the time to do it yourself? Because ultimately, once you look at the UK, London, you look at the job, you look at the expertise you need in the role, you look at what you want their ambitions to be and how you want them to grow, you want to look at the fit. Actually, you're talking about less than a handful of people that are probably right. And then it's getting them to see your advert. Good people aren't looking for jobs. They're sitting happily in a role where they're being really well rewarded and feeling fulfilled. So it's all so linked. It's like a spider's web.
Yeah.
And it's about building all of that. So it's really important that your interview process does reflect what matters to you in the process, and that does pull out the intrinsic motivation.
That actually goes on to our next topic, which is why I'm going to take this a little bit deeper. I think we're all clear what intrinsic values mean. We're clear on how we extract that in so many different ways. I appreciate we've not been. There's a pro forma you guys use, so certainly people can call you about the details, how you get that information out. Which brings us to the next bit. What really matters to you, which is, we're talking about purpose, values, all those sorts of things. But actually, the majority of people don't know what their purpose is. Majority of people may not have even thought about what their values. They have them. We just don't know what are our core values. What really triggers us, or what matters, or what is a line what is our code that you can't cross? That no way, I'm not accepting that behavior, or this is what I want to do to achieve that outcome. What matters, which is why involuntary organizations is a really good example, right? Why do they volunteer? Because they are so aligned with that the value of that charity, the good that it does. So there's nothing to talk about in the sense of, we're all doing it, whatever the different characters are. So how do you find out your purpose or mission?
I noticed that because we work with the commercial world and we work with the not-for-profit world. And I always say that we're in this really optimized position of seeing both sectors, both areas, and how they could learn from each other. And I think the commercial world, charities, not-for-profit organizations have their why in their title, have their why right under their name. But the commercial world can't always, sexy up what they do to align people. So again, that comes back to not only what they do, but why they do it and what footprint they want to leave whilst doing it.
What are your values? What are your company values? How did you come up with them?
Yeah, so our second topic is what matters to your business to ensure the perfect fit. So when I've been at the main group over 20 years, I bought it out 10 years ago, and I wanted to ensure that we were creating an environment of success and happiness. And I wanted to ensure, when I reflected, I felt that we'd done that sort of by chance, not necessarily by design. So the first thing that I worked on with my business coach was on defining a culture. So we did the exercise of bringing everyone together. It was about 20, 25 people. We broke them down into teams of 5 or 6, usually the teams they work in. We created a team leader who we debriefed before the session and said, right, we're going to do an exercise in who you value and why. So again, we didn't tell them, oh, we're doing a culture exercise. We just said, we want to get to know you better. And we pulled together those words and we did a word cloud. And then we also asked the questions, who would you cross the road to avoid and why? And again, we pulled those words together. And in the end, we created, from the word cloud, we created 4 headings that reflected all the words that were the most popular words. And from that, we said, this is not us telling you what our culture is. This is you, the people, saying what matters to you about being part of the main group and what you stand for. So from now on, these are going to be our cornerstones of culture, and we will always work towards making sure that we manage equally on culture and success in your role. So that's how we did that. But we also had the list of what would we not stand for. So then when you start managing people, it's not, they don't feel it's subjective. You say, listen, this is our culture. We talked about this. You defined it,
This is how we do stuff. This is how we operate,
So, and it's not a word. So in an interview, you don't just have a word. You say what, and when you induct people, you say, what does this word mean to you? Greatness. What does greatness mean to you? How do you think you can demonstrate greatness in your role? Because every role will have a different way of demonstrating greatness. So it's about keeping that alive. And then what we do is we have a monthly ambassador award where teams nominate who they think really reflected those cultural values. So, and this is what we advise our clients to do, to not only have it intrinsic in their day-to-day working world, but also to have it as part of their hiring process and part of their appraisal process.
Meeta, do you know where my values are in the company?
Please tell me.
All in here. Not communicated, not written down. I think this is a common thread with a lot of employers. I know what matters to me. Have I communicated with my guys? Are they really good lawyers? Yeah, they're brilliant. Have I had the discussion about the values? No. Are some things aligned and some things not in terms of how we operate? Yes. But are we all in the same goal, helping our clients doing whatever we can? Yes. So I'm starting to come up with after 10 years, it's never too late, I guess is what I'm saying. What are the values that, sorry, I was just going to say, what are the values that matter to you and how do you get to them? And it requires a little bit of a deep dive and not just you sitting there on your own. That's a good place to start. And I have 5 here. I just wanted to run by you and see if we're on the same track. My guys don't even know this at the moment yet, right? So it's something I wanted to feel. One of them was heart and soul, doing everything we do with passion and to really make our clients succeed. Do what we say we're going to do. How about that as a standard? People don't want you to smash the expectations. Just do what you say. That some people don't even meet that standard. Raw and real. So no BS. People want to know how to exactly get the thing resolved, not over lawyering. The 4th one is pushing the boundaries. So it's a bit of creative thinking around the problem, not lawyering the problem. How do we practically resolve it? And the last one is back yourself and back each other. That's more like an internal one. I kind of like that kind of phrase, I've got your back. Like I'm a Goodfellas kind of movie fan.
I'm saying something quite
that sort of thing.
eerie is that your values and my values align. So ours are greatness, which is all around wanting to do the best, whatever you put your finger on, whether it's making breakfast or it's delivering great people for your client. You know, you always want to be the best at what you do and give that experience. The second is energy, so putting your heart and soul into it. The next is clarity. So again, like just always being clear, like always, like, you know, not just expecting people to know what you know, but actually taking the time to bring them along on the journey. And the final one is integrity. You know, so again, it's like, you know, be authentic, be real, you know, and don't just like switch it on for when you get a phone call. Actually, our team are our internal customers. Let's all, you know, be real with each other, because
that's exactly right. How you treat your customers should be how you treat your staff, it should be how you treat your suppliers. This is a value. This is how we do things, right?
And isn't it interesting that you've done that for yourself? Now let's do that exercise with your people.
Yeah, that's my next level now. Yeah, they're working right now, so they're not watching this.
Yes. The poll at the moment says that 71% of our attendees today have a defined culture. Can someone put in the group how they did that? It would be really great. Just a couple of lines. Did you do an exercise? Did you just pick some words that you felt was right from the senior leadership?
Can I take a guess?
Yeah.
Somebody thought about it at leadership level and they wrote it down and they put it in a policy. Then I bet what they do is they have an induction and they say, here's the book. If you read and understood it, yep, great. Tick box, get on with it. I don't think anybody's gone into a deep dive like this. You know, genuinely, there's no shortcut. It's like picking a partner for life, like a romantic relationship. What do you got to do? What's the interview process? Well, the interview process when you're finding your partner is dating and, you know, seeing you like the same likes and you like each other's families and whatever, all those sorts of things, right?
And I have a confession, Tosh. And Joe says, the directors had a discussion when they rebranded. So Joe, thank you for that feedback. The next step is establishing that what is important to you with your people. So let me know if you want more insight on that. Our masterclass videos, 40 videos on every step of the recruitment, retention, and actually even when you need to exit, doing it on a positive footing, reflect this. And they're only 10 to 15 minutes each. And I think it's really powerful. So we come in and do days for people when we hold that, you know, we run the day. Other times people want to do it themselves. So important that it's not just something that's top down, but it's, as you said, intrinsic in the.
There's so many different pieces of the puzzle. Yeah. And people are focusing on one aspect of it. Let's get someone to fit in the job get the job done. Yeah. When you start to look at all the different bits of how that connects to that, and actually it starts with you and getting that right, the tools are there. You know, Meeta's got those programs to go through it. You know, I'll happily talk to you. No obligation whatsoever to go through how have I got, you know, formulated my ideas. But once you've got your values, you know, and really dug deep about what matters, you know, I've seen business owners realize they don't want to do that business anymore because it's not, they just got into business for doing money, for example, or they didn't realize actually their heart and soul or their passion was in something else. Employees, you know, they realize that the employees aren't the right fit. Guess what? Once you found your values, if the employees are not aligned, you have a reshuffle. Yeah, and because you want them intrinsically motivated.
And this is what I was going to say while we tie this up and move on to our last topic, because I'm conscious of time. I know that in our world, we need to do our annual review, and we didn't do it because of the pandemic and everyone working remotely. But actually, it's more important that we do it with everyone remote, because how do we keep everyone connected and on the same page? So as we said, the best time was at the beginning. The next best time is now. So if you haven't done it yet, don't think, oh, but it's too late. As Tosh said, it's never too late. Get your culture in every layer of your organization and get the questionnaires around cultural alignment and value and intrinsic motivation into your hiring process. Those are, I think, from step 1 to step 2, that is what the takeaway is.
Yeah, it's totally right. And we're going to do a recap, by the way, what we've learned from this webinar, so that people can just really think about what they need to do. And please, you know, like Meeta said, you know, if you've got a leaky tap, fix it yourself if you like, or get somebody who knows what they're doing. Or if you don't want to pay for somebody to get that, fix it for you, get them to teach you. Yeah. Either way, it doesn't matter what the frame is. To get it right, get someone who knows what they're doing. And once you get it right, you'll be doing it all day long.
Yeah.
And it's going to make what a difference it makes finding the right relationship. What a difference it makes finding the right person for your business.
Well,
getting those things right are exponentially good for your organization and your life.
And you feel like a tribe. You feel like a group of people, that are all part of something really important and special. And therefore, whether you're selling advertising space on the internet or you are doing some really important charity work, you feel like your purpose is aligned with what you do. And that's so important. Joellen actually has said that when they set up Impact Factory 30 years ago, part of their ethos was as much what we didn't want as much as what we did. Absolutely.
Yeah, really good. I like that.
And what do you not stand for? What will we not stand for in terms of behaviors and culture? And that's great because, again, when somebody has performance challenges, we don't make it a subjective, oh, you haven't done what we say. Listen, this is our value. We've agreed. This is what we don't stand for. Do you see that you're demonstrating this now? And then understanding the why of what they're doing. So it helps you to get everyone back on track and stay on track a lot better. And Chris,
I like that, Joe. And I keep going back to the relationship example. It's a little bit like, look, I want you to act in a loving way. That's my goal. That's my value. And what I don't want you to do is don't talk to me like that. Because it's it's the whole respectful sort of thing, certain thing, and it doesn't align with what the mission is. So I love that because that really reinforces what you do want them to do by saying what you don't want them to do.
Yeah, and I think it's important to bring to life, as you said, Tosh, here's our value. Do you agree with it? Yes. Tell me and give me an example of how that value has been demonstrated in your life. That then actually shows that you're on the same page. And Chris says here as well, having done value pieces, how about also then asking what are the realities? People will still say what we want to hear and often are fearful of saying the wrong thing. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So perhaps this question around give me an example of, or tell me a time when, would be a good way of getting people's realities. And actually also saying, when you're faced, give me an example of when you worked in an environment where this wasn't the situation. How did that make you feel? How did you react? What did you do? Because again, I talk about culture a lot in terms of hiring the right fit. But then I talk about competencies a lot in hiring the right skills, which are important. You can teach skills, you can't teach attitude. But we talk about competency-based interviewing, which is along the same lines of, tell me a time when you've done this work, not just have you done this work? Yes, I did it for 3 years. Tell me a time when. And did you enjoy the work? Or, they might turn around and say, no, I didn't, in which case you don't want that person, even though they've got all that experience in it, they don't love it. So it really is absolutely right, Chris. It's about digging under the skin and actually asking the same question in 2 different ways or at 2 different interviews to see if there's consistency, to see if they are being authentic.
Here's what I want to say, Chris. This is 2 things, really. Number one is, if you were looking for a partner, I know I'm going to go back there all day long, by the way, if you find the theme. If you're looking for a partner, what are you going to ask them to make sure that they got the right things? You know how many times do people fall in love with somebody, warts and all, right? Because it's love. And then after the course of time, those cute things become the annoying things. Yeah. Well, if you get it right at the beginning, you'll get it right. So you need to know what questions to ask. And this isn't like, you don't need to reinvent it. Pick up the phone, speak with Meeta and understand what you need to do to fight. I mean, this is what this is all about, right? Having the right people around you to know what to do, what to say, how to get those things right. Because once you've got that system in place, those right questions, which are always going to be aligned all day with what those values are, which again, you can be mapped out with Meeta, you're done. You're done. Yeah. And then if you get it wrong, let's say you get it 90% right, you get a 10% people it doesn't still work out because they still manage to pretend to be somebody else through the process. Well, it's inevitable, but you're significantly going to increase the chances of getting the right people, saving your time in training, saving your time in recruitment, getting that long-term buy-in, getting and don't forget, when long-term buy-in is there and the intrinsic motivation is in there, productivity is in there as well, because everyone's got a stake in the game. Everyone wants you to win because it's their win, isn't it?
Yeah, I talk about the rowing boat with the oars, everyone facing in the same direction, all rowing in the same direction, you're winning. If everyone's sitting opposite each other, you're just going in circles. So it really is important. And thank you for the plug of shouting out to me. I could, as you can tell, talk about this all day. I just see the organizations that get it right, the organizations that haven't even become enlightened to it. And generally, probably 80% are the ones in between that are doing it right, but want to kind of get back on track. And it's about checking back in with yourself. As I said, we need to do that exercise again. And it's never finished, right? You've always got to work on it. So again, we are matchmaking. We're matchmaking not for relationships in life, but for careers and success of businesses and organizations. So it's still matchmaking of sorts. And yeah, you're absolutely right. It's knowing thyself. So actually that brings us to the third topic, and I'm taking my glasses off because it's in my ears, but
I saw you squint.
Where do you find the right person? And this is all around having your shop window all ready for attracting the right people, even when you're not
like a beacon
looking. And that is what we call talent pooling. If you want to talk about the industry terminology, you know, who are you? You know, you walk past Selfridges and they've got the Christmas and then they've got the Easter. What's your shop window that you want to demonstrate for yourself? And you know, if you've hired the right people, then when you do a video or a profile of the people in your company, somebody from the outside in thinks, oh yeah, I like who they are, I like what they're about, I want to be part of that. I like the organization and what they stand for, I like the people who work there, and I like the job, I like what the role is. So it's about having your shop window really well defined. And again, it's probably my it's my number one video on my masterclass of attraction. Number one is get your employer brand right, because then your people also become hirers. You don't just have a hiring team or one person that goes out and advertises. You have a whole tribe of people that are looking out for like-minded people that will be part of your world for the future.
In terms of where people look, you know, I think what often happens, Meeta, and probably you will definitely know this is the experience. As an employer, you think of the cost before you think of the value, possibly. And what do? You'll try on LinkedIn, and that might work. There's lots of free forums out there. So I think there's one point we were advertising on Gumtree many years ago. Lots of different free platforms. And again, it's a little bit like trying to fix the leaky tap yourself. It doesn't work. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're looking for. So understanding the right process, getting the right people to train you or find those people, there's an intrinsic value so I keep using that word now, intrinsic value associated with that. And understanding that makes a massive difference. But you really got to, you're right, Meeta, I have to accept what you say, which is you got to be in the right place to start thinking that way. And, you know, there's a couple of things that happened to me in the last week or so, in a course I attended, that just flipped it for me and made me look at it in this way, which is why I thought this is a solution that's out there that we don't know. We just talk about it, but we're not really know. How do I find out the people are the problem? They're not the problem. You're the problem. You're the problem because you're not finding them in the right way. You're not looking in the right way. You know, you're putting an advert. You're looking for a lion, and the deer are coming, and the deer are getting dressed up as lions because that's what you're saying you want.
So when you do an advert, don't say we are looking for. Bring this company and this role to life. Start with, do you want to be part of an organization which? Do you want your job too? That is how you start to attract the right people, because they're like, oh yeah, I like that.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
You know, so again, it's a continual reflection and a affirmation that I am going to work in a proactive way to get in the right talent in our world. Yes, we have to advertise. You know, we look on LinkedIn. We have the reactive approach, which is you advertise and people come in. Then you have the proactive approach of you look like a like-minded person to the organization that we're representing. Would you be interested in hearing more? So there's those two, but then there's also what I call the talent pooling, which is always collecting fans of the organization. And, you know, ask your people, say, look, now may not be the right time to hire. But if you see someone that you think I'd like them to be part of my team or my organization in the future, let me know, let HR know, and we'll do a little introductory, hi, how are you doing? Because I'll tell you what, it's a bit like buses. Great people don't come along when you need them. They come along 3 at a time, and you're thinking, well, this doesn't necessarily fit. But actually, what I would say is when the right fit comes, grab them with both hands, because you can teach the skills. You can actually supercharge your growth by having these people in before, because they will drive that part of your world. So don't be afraid that when you see the right person thinking, but we're not ready for them, flip it the other way and think, well, how can they help us to be ready and grow? Because then will help with that.
So what have we learned today? I think is number one, look at yourself, look at your organization. If you haven't got values aligned or culture in place, or you don't know how to make that work, give us a call. Let us figure it out with you. What's the next thing? Once you've got those things, really gone through this, and this is not something that people establish within an hour. You know, it might take half a day, a week, to really dig between a layer and the next layer and the next layer, because then you've got something that people will fight for, right?
Yeah.
What's the next thing after that? Once you've got those things in place, you then understand what are the questions you need to ask. Well, first you need to know where to look, and then you need to know what are the things we need to put out there so that those are the people that are coming, the ones that are aligned, intrinsically aligned with those things. What are the questions you ask when they turn up? What do they look like? What are they supposed to say? Don't make it just about the job. Ask the right questions. Meeta's got the blueprint for it. Speak to somebody who knows. We're here. We've been doing this for over a year now. And so when you know all these things in place, you are going to, it's just common sense, actually. You're going to significantly increase the chances of finding the right person, which is going to save you time, cost, money, and a lot of stress. And
grow your organization
and growth with the business. You took the words out of my mouth. Yeah. So all of those things are what makes it work. Because, if you're high enough in the organization, and I think you are, if you're watching this, I'm sorry, I'm going a little bit a minute over. And you'll be like me and Meeta. I don't have to get up thinking, oh God, I might have the odd day, but I don't stay there. I've got a motivation. I want to do something. I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to help those people. All those things.
What do you stand for and who do you value exercise is really powerful. It is amazing seeing the shift in people's energy, body language the next day, or when you put those words on the wall, when you do the ambassador awards. It's just so powerful. I can't recommend it enough. I'm just going to look at Chris's comment here. Chris, I really what you're saying, but wonder if having got the right people to interview, if the interview process, ask and respond over a table, is fit for purpose.
I don't know what that means.
No, I don't either, Chris. Can you enlighten us a bit more on that?
Well, hang around a little bit longer just for you, Chris, right?
Also, what I would say is don't be afraid of doing shadow days. Don't be afraid of asking people to do an exercise. If you feel that, I'm just ad-libbing while we get a bit more info from Chris on this.
I think I know what he's asking, by the way. We'll finish ad-libbing.
No.
The normal interview is I'm sitting on one side of the table and you're sitting on the other side of the table, and I ask you some questions, and it's almost like one of those police interrogations you see when you're in movies or whatever. So he's saying, is that the way we do it? Ask and respond.
Bring other exercises in. Exactly that. What I'm saying is, don't be afraid to mix it up. Do the exercise. Do a half day shadow. Take them out for drinks, take them out for coffee, see how they react in a public environment, see them with their guard down, and see if you still see the same values aligned.
That I think, Meeta, makes sense when you've decided, or you put them down to a few people, because then you're going to invest some more time. If it's a process of you've got about 50 people, I suppose, that's it. He said it's that. If you've got a process of about 50 people, what are you, I appreciate we're going over now, but I think it's such an important subject that matters to people. Let's just get it right. Yeah. What is it you suggest they do? 50 candidates come forward. You sift through the CVs. The CVs normally mean I'm just making this up. Yeah. You go down to about 10 people. Yeah. I'm not going to go for a drink with 10 people. God, I haven't got the time to do that. Yeah. So what am I going to do?
So what we've invested in is video recruitment technology. So what we do is we send out, and we didn't even plan this, we send out a link to say, here's 3 questions we'd really like you to answer. Please tell me who you value and why. Please tell me what your motivations are for taking this role and why our organization. And finally, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Whatever your 3 questions are that are important to you. And they record it and send it back to you. Then you've had a virtual drink by them seeing, first of all, does anyone even take the time to respond to the video? That eliminates the people that aren't going to bother. And then secondly, you get to see them, how they respond and what they stand for. Obviously take into account some people are good on camera, some aren't. So look at all levels of communication, the words, the body language, the tone and intention. So that will then allow you to reduce from 50 down to a short list of more aligned applicants.
Interesting, isn't it? You said communication, and we both misread Chris's thing. And now that I read it again, it makes perfect sense what he wrote. So we both, so the interpretation of using the same word, you look at the same thing in a different way. That's the example of what you're saying is let's dig deeper. So we really are getting the answers that we're looking for, not what we think they're saying.
Exactly. Good. All right. We could talk about this forever, but we have over. Thank you all for your time. We know it's precious. We hope you can take away valuable tools. As Tosh said, we're available outside of this session as well. And thanks, Joe Ellen. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everyone, for your input as well.
And you know what? The worst thing you could be is an educated derelict. Don't have
Exactly.
all of the knowledge. Don't have all of the knowledge and do nothing with it.
Yeah.
It's a waste. Please, I know we're saying we're not doing it, but you should really speak to Meeta. If you're not getting it right, just do it this time and you'll get it right going forward. There's no point having all this information or reading a book or doing whatever you're doing and then not applying 2 or 3, 4, 5 great points that will make a difference. That is what we've been doing for the last year. So I hope this really, really, I hope you guys implement these things. And maybe we can get a story, Meeta, if any of the people are watching or anyone watching the replay does this with you, ask them to be a case study that we can talk about. Because
I would love to.
For me, I think this is an amazingly different way of looking at our recruitment problem. That is a massive employer problem.
Yeah, it really is. Well, thank you, Tosh. I'm glad to see you have come over to the enlightened side, and looking forward to seeing the great success that brings your organization as well. And thank you, everyone, for your feedback. We'll see you this time next week.
Not me. I'll be back in 4 weeks.
Yeah, I'm back next week, and we are doing a piece all around disability recruitment. And as an organization, if you want to ensure that your diversity and inclusion recruitment process is fit for purpose, then join me next week where we'll be talking more about that.
Enjoy, and I'll see you again on the 22nd myself. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.